I've been reluctant for quite some time now to watch the documentary Jesus Camp about the evangelical indoctrination of mass groups of children. But a group of close friends of mine convinced me to see it, and now I have. And I have to respond to this group of evangelicals that think their methods justify the ends they're attempting to achieve. Children are blank slates. They're tabula rasa. They're entirely vulnerable. And the boundless trust that they put into you as an authority figure imbues you with a responsibility to educate them like individual human beings with verified information. Not like robots that you just get to program however you want. It isn't easy to raise children to think for themselves and question authority, because it guarantees that they're going to question you. Having to explain the reason for every rule and command you issue children, it isn't easy as threatening them with punishment and saying, because I said so. But it's the responsible thing to do, to ensure that children can think for themselves when you're not around to think for them anymore. And if you don't think it's worth the time, or you don't have an explanation for your commands, then they just might not be worth following. Witnessing the devices that evangelical adults use to manipulate the minds of children is revolting. Threatening an innocent mind with eternal torment, demonizing people like non-believers and public school teachers, and injecting children with guilt for having completely natural human thoughts and desires, including the natural reluctance to believe the pure bullshit you're trying to fill their heads with. And I would think that in a room full of 10 or 20 adults, that one among them would see the problem, would see the pain, would see the suffering, and realize that even if they believed wholeheartedly in the ends of the message they were trying to relay, that the means were disgustingly inappropriate. If you want your child to grow up and become a Christian or a Republican or a baseball player or a doctor, it's fine to want all those things. Most parents want to vicariously experience life again through their children, and that's okay. But to force them to become what you want them to be, directly in conflict with their natural compulsions and desires through multi-pronged indoctrination, is nothing short of repulsive. And you might want them to grow up and give you grandchildren someday, but that doesn't mean you start brainwashing them to be obsessed with sex when they're 5 years old. It's also important to understand that we don't try minors as adults for a reason, because they're arbitrarily innocent of our established crimes, even if they do know what a crime is, until they develop a sophisticated enough comprehension of right and wrong for it to be possible for them to be guilty. Is your God willing to punish them eternally for not immersing themselves in Scripture before humans are willing to punish them for breaking a law? Why not wait until they reach the age of reason to provide them with a balanced set of options? I hear evangelical creationists preaching about a need for equal representation of creationism alongside evolution in a public classroom. Why not wait until your kids are 13 or 14, then devote an equal amount of time to explaining the beliefs and practices of every mainstream religion, along with equal representation for the position of no faith at all, and let them decide for themselves which group is worth adhering to and which ones are full of shit? You won't do that, though. You won't, because you need every scrap of advantage you can get to wage your little holy war, and there's no fresh meat to forge new soldiers from among the rationally thinking adults who disagree with you. Among the people you'd actually have to fucking convince. And unless you really believe that your God's willing to condemn children to hell because they were free to enjoy their childhood without the guilt of His scriptures forced upon them, and you have no excuse to behave otherwise.